folks, it's Monday, it's 7 p.m., and it is time for another episode of Monday Night Nerd. We are L-I-V-E live tonight. It has been a good week. It is going to be an even better weekend with Fan Expo Canada just around the corner. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some things I did over the weekend, some things I watched, and a whole lot more. If you are new to the show and you are live on Instagram or you are live on YouTube, my name is Corp Cosplay. This is my podcast. We've been doing this for 158 weeks. And this is where we talk about nerdy things. We talk about music, we talk about movies, we talk about everything under the sun. And this week, we're talking about Fan Expo Canada because Fan Expo Canada starts this Thursday, and I have been going for 15 years. This will be my 16th anniversary of going to Fan Expo Canada, and I have got a whole bunch of fun stories to talk about. We're going to talk about those in a bit, but I'll tell you right now, we got stories about meeting Ron Perlman, Hellboy himself, while I was wearing nothing but a bathrobe. We're going to talk about my first cosplay competition, because that was at Fan Expo Canada, and how hilarious that was. We're going to talk about running into different celebrities on the floor, and we're going to be talking at the end about my most probably embarrassing story that a few people know, but not many know. But we're going to talk about that later. But as I said, we're definitely going to jump into the news. It has been a good week. We have the totes ready behind the 3 totes and a bag are going to be what I'm bringing to Fan Expo Canada. Every year we're getting bigger and bigger. We've got 1 for Ghost Rider, we've got 1.5 for Darius, and we have a little bit of Peacemaker in there. That is what I will be wearing this weekend at Fan Expo Canada. You can find me in Ghost Rider on Friday. You can find me in Darius from League of Legends on Saturday, and you can find me debuting Peacemaker on Sunday. And Thursday, I will be walking around with somebody in the chat, Pretty Nerdy Crystal. We're going to be going shopping that day, picking up some stuff. Hopefully I can find some McFarlane lanterns that I'm missing for a pretty good price. However, I got a feeling I'm going to get kind of screwed on the ones I haven't found yet. Shinobi, good to see you. Happy Fan Expo week. Happy Fan Expo week to you too. Yeah, it was fun getting all this stuff ready over the weekend. It was I was kind of worried about how much this was going to take to get all of this stuff to Fan Expo Canada, and thankfully I'm able to get in 3 totes. I was honestly thinking it might have been 4, but we were able to squish little things. The axe for Darius is still going to have to be on its own. I was worried the chest piece would have to be on its own, and the shoulders were going to be on its own, but I was able to kind of shimmy some things around. Everything is locked and ready to go. The only thing, actually, the chest piece is still out. I forgot the chest piece is out still, but everything else easy, and I just got to put my bag together with, this few clothes that I'm actually going to bring that aren't cosplay. I love talking to people who aren't cosplayers. And we go to Fan Expo and all these conventions, and they're like, so how much do you pack? And I'm like, normal stuff? Not that much. Honestly, not that much. But when it comes to cosplay, way too much. It just takes up so much room. Marcy, greetings. Messiah Complex. Y'all have fun at that Fan Expo thingy. Yes, you are going to be very, very busy this weekend with your own things at the Ren Fair. But I think we should jump into the news. Before we do that, though, if you're here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button. If you want to follow me on any other social media, I am on Facebook, Corp Cosplay, Corp Cosplay on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube as well. I have a cosplay channel that is all cosplay stuff. That is Corp Cosplay. You are tuned into at Monday Night Nerd on YouTube. That is where the podcast lives. And also, if you are a wrestling fan, hop over to TikTok, where you can find Corp Wrestling, and that is where I talk about things that happened in wrestling history. We got a whole bunch of videos drafted this week talking about what happens, because we are in SummerSlam season, so we have a lot to talk about this week, so don't forget to sign up for that as well. I think it's time we hit some news. Let's jump into the news. Live from the multiverse, it's Monday Night News. It has been somewhat of a slow week in the news world. We kind of went nuts the past couple weeks with D23, San Diego Comic-Con, so it's kind of been able to slow down a little bit, but that's okay. We still got enough stuff to talk about, because I did do things this weekend, and we did experience some things this weekend. First off, I got to go to an amazing concert on Saturday. It was Twerp. If you've never heard of Twerp, you are missing out. It is Tupperware Remix Party. If you're a fan of NSP or any of those type of bands, you know of this band. They are from Toronto. They basically, if I was to explain their music genre, it is if Mario Kart had a band, this would be them. Very synthwave. They're all in different costumes. I became a fan of theirs many, many years ago, just seeing them in a music video, but never explored it until I started getting more into NSP, and now I'm a big fan of theirs because NSP had Twerp open for them last time I saw them, and I became a fan. And this weekend was their 1,000th anniversary show. Yes, folks, 1,000 years of Twerp. They've been around for 1,000 years. They have no reason to lie. And it was such a fun show. We got there bright and early. It was my friend Edith, who I talk about here on the podcast, and her husband Aaron. We went there to Toronto. It was at the Danforth Music Hall. We got there. We got some merch. We got to go in early because we were VIP. They had a little bit of a Q&A and a couple extra songs, and then they jumped into the show. The whole show was recorded. I cannot wait to see what the footage looked like. I had lots and lots of fun. We got in just in the nick of time because it poured that night, and when we got out, it was still pretty wet. But overall, go check out Twerp, TWRP. They're on YouTube. They have a bunch of amazing songs. And like I said, if you're into that Mario Kart sound or that synthwave sound, go check them out because they are really, really fun. Last Thursday, speaking of Mr. Messiah Complex in the chat, I was on the Geeks & Co. Geek Boutique podcast. I was filling in for a JS who was at a concert. Even though I thought I was replacing him full-time, if I find out he was just at a concert, oh well. Had a lot of fun. We talked about D23, Rob, myself, and Mr. Messiah. We yacked about what we thought was going to be what we thought Doom was going to be like in the new trailer, or what we thought of different things that came out of D23, including the X-Men cast, which I think we can all agree, and we talked about last week on the podcast. I'm really excited for X-Men. I didn't talk about it on my show, but I did mention it on the Geek Boutique podcast that my wife, I love her to death. She is a nerd like me, but she is not a hardcore comic nerd like I am. And one night we were just kind of chilling on the couch. I was playing some video games, and she looked over and she said, "Oh, I can't wait for you to take me to the movies." And I was like, "What movie are we going to see?" Because she likes movies, but she's not really into movies like I am. And she said, "Oh, I can't wait for you to take me to X-Men." And I'm like, "We're going to X-Men. Okay, like that's great. I'm more than happy to go to X-Men with you." So the point that she's excited for the new X-Men cast and what they're going to do before even a trailer drops, I think they chose right when it comes to the cast. So we had a lot of fun on the Geek Boutique podcast. Hopefully, if everything goes well tonight, I'm going to try and get some tests in over the next few weeks after we're done with Expo, and I want to try and get some more guests on here, including maybe Mr. Messiah Complex and the other Geeks & Co. guys, because I do have like 200 episodes, and that's including the ones that we've already done, listed here of ideas, and some of them I would like to have guests on to talk about their specialties and things about them, so I'm not sitting here for an hour just doing this, because as much as I love doing that, I know you guys love hearing the soothing sounds of my voice, it'd be nice to get some other people's opinions on here too, but it has mostly been a technical problem. Hopefully tonight we'll be able to solve that. Lady Akari's in chat as well. Pretty Nerdy Crystal, including clothes stuff I need. Yeah, this is going to be a fun weekend with more cosplay than pretty much anything else, but that's the fun of it. I got a feeling Mr. Messiah Complex is in chat because he wants to know my opinion of, what I thought of a new show that has come out that is sweeping the world, sweeping the nation, and that is Lanterns. I have been waiting so long for this, folks. Green Lantern has been my favorite comic book hero for many, many moons. I have been praising that character and that storyline and everything about that universe. And I understand that I even know some people personally who just find the Green Lantern world kind of hard to get into. And I get it. It's kind of a space thing, and it's a lot of background on characters, but now we officially have a show, and I gotta admit, when they announced the plot of this show that it was going to be sort of a buddy cop in the Midwest, I was unsure. I was like, how are you going to take this big space adventure and turn it into a Midwest rural buddy cop type show? I am so delighted with this show. We are now 2 episodes in. I talked a little bit about it on the Geeks & Co. show. Unfortunately, Messiah had not watched it yet. However, we have texted back and forth since he has watched it, and he has told me that he has enjoyed it as well. I don't want to spoil too much of it because, again, this is a new show. We're only 2 weeks in. They are dropping one a week. If you've ever wanted to jump into the Green Lantern story and try to understand what I keep praising and what everyone else in the Green Lantern world has loved for so many years, this is the show to do it. It is a very grounded story. It is a very easy to jump into. They are very good at explaining the world outside of this story and kind of give you a peek into why things are the certain way and what is outside of this world without bombarding you with 10 tons of backstory. Hal Jordan, the main Green Lantern that everyone kind of knows, unless you're a kid, then you know of John Stewart, who is also in the show. There is, obviously you've seen by the trailer, there is a little bit of awkwardness between the two. I don't, again, want to go into too much about it, but Hal Jordan has been the Green Lantern for the past several years, and John Stewart is coming up as the trainee, and Hal appears in the trailer like he is not a big fan of this, and we go from there. And after 2 episodes, it is so much fun. I'm so happy as a Lantern fan to see this property treated with so much respect. It could easily be, again, too much just information overload on fans and people that aren't into it. I know at least 2 people who are not Green Lantern fans. They aren't anti-Green Lantern, but they just don't know a lot of the backstory, and they have watched at least the pilot and been like, okay, you've hooked me. I want to see where this goes. And after episode 2, it makes it, I'm so excited to see where they're going to go. The Easter eggs are all over the place. There is a mention of another Green Lantern in the 2nd episode, which as soon as they said it, I was like, oh, wow, we are getting deep cuts into the Lantern world, which makes me very happy. There are definitely some other characters from the Lantern universe that are being shown but not really told about in these last 2 episodes. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to make them come to light, so to speak. So overall, I am very pleased. If you've ever had any or no interest in Green Lantern, go check out Lanterns. It is on Crave. There are 2 episodes in. They drop every Sunday at 9 o'clock. Oh, I'm so excited to see where we're going to go with this. Shinobi Lanterns. Marcy says, I'm enjoying it. Haven't watched episode 2 yet. Go enjoy episode 2. Pretty near Crystal, wish I had time to watch. Game of Thrones is taking up my life. Yes, I was told you are knee deep in the Game of Thrones universe. But yeah, Lanterns, I'm kicking myself. I've not made a good Green Lantern costume yet. I will tell you now, my next cosplay that I'm working on after Fan Expo is a lantern, but it is not a Green Lantern. And I'm really debating on putting that to the side and just doing Green Lantern. But I also love this lantern as well, so we'll see. By probably Expo next year, if not earlier, I will have a good lantern cosplay that I'm so excited to have. Other than that, it's kind of just getting ready for Expo. That has kind of been my MO right now. I have everything packed. We have one real celebrity I want to meet, and when I say one celebrity, I mean one group of celebrities. I will be hopefully running into and paying to get some autographs of the Resident Evil cast. I picked up a giant. It is actually a vinyl like material of the 30th anniversary. If you've ever been a Resident Evil fan, and it's all of the main characters. It is Chris, Leon, Claire, etc. I have that. It is a huge piece, and I'm going to be getting a bunch of the autographs because they are having a giant Resident Evil reunion. This is kind of the only problem about these big reunions of a property so big that's Resident Evil, is that As I'm a big fan of the entire series, I don't really want every character to sign this, because there are some characters that are going to be there that I'm just like, meh. I want the main ones and a couple side characters that I enjoy. So hopefully I can get those done. Hopefully it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. Thankfully, I have been saving my pennies over the last little while to have some extra spending money. So that is kind of one of the missions I'm going to get done. Other than that, it is cosplaying all day, all night. Saturday in particular, if you have nothing to do Saturday night, or even if you do, bring your friends to the bottom of the North Building to the cosplay competition. I will be there in Darius on stage with some other amazing cosplayers out there. Cursling Cosplay will be a part of that. Bite Props, if you know her, she is one of the judges, so she will be part of that as well. It is going to be a lot of fun, and if you are a part of the cosplay competition and you are watching the show beforehand, please swing by and say hi. I try my best to not be shy, and I know you guys are probably like dumbfounded when I say that. In a giant group or on camera or anything like that, I am perfectly fine holding a conversation. I'm perfectly fine talking and blah, blah, blah. One-on-one, if I don't know you, I am super nervous. I've always been that way. I am horrible in a one-on-one conversation. So if I don't come up to see you, which I'm going to try my best to kind of push myself out there and say hi to everybody. If I don't, please come over and say hi, break the ice for me. I'm trying my best. But it is going to be a lot of fun. I believe it starts at 5 o'clock, so you guys can still, I think it's only an hour, a little bit longer than an hour, so don't think you're going to be there all night. Come out, say hi, have some fun, enjoy the competition, and then you guys can go out and enjoy your Saturday night like I will be. Hopefully I can get changed after and we'll just have to go to dinner with friends and cosplay. Wouldn't be the first time. I've done it before. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And yeah, we're going to have a good time this weekend. If you aren't going to Fan Expo, hopefully get to see you in the future. We got a couple cons coming up over the next month or two, so hopefully I'll see you there. That's kind of it for the news. If you guys want to, you can hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, and we will be going into a sponsor, and then we're going to hop into the main event. Folks, the sponsor, as always, is my beautiful, loving, amazing, incredible wife. It's always her, because I would not be here without her. Really, I would not. And I don't do that just to suck up. As I say every single week, I am a better person with her in my life. I would not have the guts to come out here and do this every single week. I would not have the guts to go out and make all these cosplays and show off and do all this fun stuff if it wasn't for her having my back and encouraging me to explore my passion for cosplay and all things nerddom. So, hun, you will always be my sponsor. Folks, we are only 18 minutes in. I don't think this is going to be a super long episode, which is good because I think the last one we went over an hour. So I'm going to make sure to get you guys out of here early because I got to do a little bit of final packing before we get ready for Expo. And yes, I like to do this stuff early because I hate waiting till the last minute. But before we do that, we need to hop into the main event. It's time for the main event. Folks, it is time for the main event here on the podcast. We have a lot of fun stories. Why are we doing this? Why this topic? Well, because Fan Expo is this week. We're going into the 16th year. Yes, last week, if you tuned in, we talked about the first year going to Fan Expo, and that was 2009. I've been going for 16 years, and it is, as I talked about last week on the podcast, it is definitely something that I never thought would take hold of my life as much as it does. This whole Comic-Con cosplay thing. Since 2009, and I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you I've been to over 50 Comic-Cons in the past 15 years. That's not just Fan Expos, that's other ones in the area. I have volunteered for over a decade, which allowed me to go to many cons in the area. It has become such a part of my life, and I love what it has brought me when it comes to talking about stuff on here, meeting a whole lot of you, making a whole ton of new friends. So it is something that I cherish a lot, and I do want to kind of give you guys, I know a lot of you folks have been going to Comic-Cons for a long time, but there are very few that I know that have been going as long as I have. And you have your stories that you have been a part of, and I want to talk about mine because there are a lot of fun things that I've done over the years, and I just kind of want to talk. I just want to kind of shoot the shit and, tell you these fun little things. I guess I should kind of kick off with the one I've talked about the most, and that is the Ron Perlman story. I have quickly talked about it before. I don't know if I've talked about it on here. Maybe I did way back in the day, but it has been a very long time. So this Ron Perlman story let's think, it was around 2012, 2013. Last week we talked about going to the first hotel that we stayed at. That hotel ended and closed very soon after that convention. So the second year we ended up going, we ended up staying in a Super 8 hotel in Chinatown. Now, if you know the Toronto area, that is a heck of a walk. That is about an hour, not an hour, probably half an hour walk from the convention to the hotel. It is a trek and a half after you've been cosplaying and walking around a convention all day. Well, it was fine for myself, my brother Tom, and my brother Gavin. However, once our girlfriends decided that they got tired of hearing how much fun we were having, they wanted to come along too, because they're all nerds as well. So after about 2-3 years of doing that, they decided to come along. And that last year, we stayed at the Super 8. All three of us heard about it from our significant others saying, we don't like doing this walk. Can we move closer? And we never really thought about it, but finally we decided, all right, the next year we're going to move up. And we went from Super 8 to the Royal York, the big granddaddy hotel of Toronto that is actually in the new Reacher series, the new season of Reacher, and is very famous in Toronto. It's right across from the Union Station, the big train station. And this was the first year, and we were so excited because this was the big, grand Royal York. And we did the convention on the Friday, because this, at the time, was only a 3-day convention. They only bumped it up to a 4-day convention around 2015, 2016. So we were there on the Friday. We were having a blast. We enjoyed ourselves. And then we came back to the hotel, and I don't know about you guys, but when I stay at a hotel for Fan Expo or any convention, I don't ever really get to use the facilities. Like when you go to a hotel, there is the room charge and all that, but then there's also the amenities. Like you pay for the gym, you pay for all these the pool and stuff like that. There's always a little bit of your payment will go towards the paying and making sure those things are taken care of. So I looked at my brother Tom, and I said, Tom, like, we're paying for this. We should probably use it. Like, even just once. We should at least say, hey, we took advantage of it. So he said, well, I don't really want to swim after walking around all day. And I'm like, yeah, let's figure out something else. He goes, why don't we go to the sauna? We can just sit back. We're on our feet all day. Let's just go relax in the sauna. And I'm like, you know what, Tom? Brilliant guy. Let's do that. And if you've never been to a sauna, most saunas, you just wear a robe or shorts. Like, it's not something you wear a whole lot of clothing for. So I looked at Tom and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get changed, just throw on a robe, and we'll go down and just chill in the sauna. Love it. So we went to the room, got dressed, because we all had separate rooms at that point. Met at the elevator, we went down, and we went to the sauna. And it was so nice. Like, it is engraved in my memory how relaxing that was after a full day on your feet. Like, it wasn't even a foot massage. It was just, oh, I get to just lay here in the warmth and relax. And we were down there for maybe 10, 15 minutes, not too long, because we were still exhausted from going to the convention all day. So after a little while, we're laying down there relaxing, and I'm like, all right, it's getting late. We should probably go up and get dressed, go to bed. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for the next morning. Get up, go over, hit the elevator. We get in the elevator. We go upstairs, and the sauna's in the basement, main floor, and then our rooms were probably 3rd or 4th or 5th floor. We get in the elevator. We get to the main floor. Obviously, it's the main floor. A lot of people are coming and going. Stops. Doors open, and who walks onto the elevator? Mr. Ron Perlman. Mr. Hellboy, Mr. Sons of Anarchy, Ron Perlman walks on the elevator all by himself, carrying some luggage. And Tom and I are against the wall. He's in front of us, facing the door. And Tom is a huge Hellboy fan. Like, huge. And is starting to get into Sons of Anarchy. So he is losing his mind. I'm excited because it's Ron Perlman. And, I know I've seen Hellboy. I'm not a giant fan, but I appreciate his work. And we're waiting, and we get to our floor, and we realize Ron never pushed another button. We're like, oh, okay. The doors open, Ron walks out, and doesn't just kind of duck to the side to let us out. He starts walking towards rooms, and we're like, Ron Perlman's on our floor. Ron Perlman's staying on the same floor as us. That's kind of cool. And at the hotel, you usually take a left or a right, and you kind of hit a wall in most hotels. And most of them have a sign that says like rooms 1 to 10 are this direction, 11 to 20 are that direction. So Ron walks up and hits that wall and starts looking at the numbers. And we obviously know what our rooms are. We're next door to each other. So we kind of take the right, knowing we're rooms 17, 18, 19 or something. And I start taking the right, and I start walking, and it doesn't hit me till about 10 steps that Tom's not next to me. And I turn around and I look, and Tom is standing next to Ron Perlman. And Tom says, "Hey, Ron, do you need help finding your room? Because you look a little lost." And Ron looks over at Tom and says, "Nah, I think I'm okay." And Tom says, "No problem," and starts walking towards me. I, realizing the situation, have my hand against the wall and am almost barreled over laughing. Not loud enough that Ron can hear, but I am snickering very loudly. And Tom walks up to me and goes, why are you laughing? And I'm like, you do not understand the situation you were just in. He goes, what? I said, Tom, you just asked Ron Perlman if he needed help finding his room wearing obviously nothing but a bathrobe. Do you know how weird that probably felt for him of having, he's 40-something, 50-something. We were like 21, 22 at the time. And I'm like, a kid half his age in a bathrobe just asked him if he needed help finding his room. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And Tom is just red blushed. He's like, I can't believe I embarrassed myself. And I'm like, maybe he didn't look at it that way, but just from my point of view, having him with luggage and you standing there in nothing but a bathrobe, it can kind of come off a little awkward if you don't know what the actual situation is. So that is a story that I always chuckle. We tried to meet Ron the next day and kind of explain the situation to him, but he was swamped at the time. Like I said, Sons of Anarchy was kind of hitting the peak, and he was lined up out the door. But ever since then, I've never had the opportunity to walk over and actually meet Ron Perlman and be like, hey, I need to tell you this story, because it is a story that I love reminding Tom about, because I love my buddy Tom, my brother Tom, but he can be very awkward when it comes to meeting celebrities sometimes. He gets a little starstruck, and I love it because it's so sweet and so embarrassing for him, but I think it's adorable. So that's one of the big ones, the Ron Perlman one. Some of the other things that you may remember if you've ever been to Fan Expo Canada over the past couple of years is the capacity problem. Usually on the Saturday, and I've talked about Toronto Comic Con is kind of getting this way too, that Saturday is kind of nuts. Like, it is busy to the point of being almost unwalkable if you're in cosplay. Like, I remember last year was it last year or the year before? It was the year before, or was it last year? No, I think it was the year before, when I was Judge Dredd. And I just usually, if you've ever been to Fan Expo Canada, the autographs and stuff are on the top of the north building, and then the main floor, the street level floor, has sort of a big open area where the cosplayer guests are, and they have some other cosplay stuff. That is kind of cosplay central. That is where most cosplayers hang out. And I've been hanging out there almost all day, talking to other people and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, man, I know a bunch of the volunteers and people working the celebrity lines. I'd love to just go say hi because I know they want to see my cosplay. And I walked upstairs and it was just like, holy crap. Like, even in Judge Dredd, which isn't a giant cosplay, but I do have the shoulders, I was getting pinged left, right, and center. Thank you, Crystal. We will bring up that story in a second. That is definitely what we're going to talk about. So the capacity thing has always been an issue over the past few years. But in 2010, the second year we were there, this was before kind of the boom of Fan Expo really took off. They just had it in the South Building the first year we were there. On the second year, they just had it in the North Building. They did not rent the South Building. And that turned into a problem because they hit capacity real fast. To the point, and I wish I had the photo pulled up. That was one of the first couple years where I took a lot of pictures. There is a photo of me looking over the balcony, and you see the front doors of the Metro Toronto Convention Center. And it is Dawn of the Dead zombie full of people. And we talked to somebody who was working at the con, and they're just like, yeah, we can't let anybody in. The fire marshal has shut the building down. Like, if one person leaves, one person's allowed in. It's that strict right now. And it kind of blew my mind because there was probably a couple hundred people waiting at the door to come in, and they just were not allowed in because it was way too busy as it was already. So to know the people that are complaining about the capacity now, I don't think over the past few years they've ever shut the building down and been like, you're not allowed in. But I do kind of have a rule for most of the time that if I'm in on the Saturday, I'm probably not leaving until I absolutely have to, because there may come a time where it gets that busy where you just are not allowed to leave. And that's kind of crappy because, you know, you paid X amount of dollars to go to a con, and if the capacity hits, you didn't sell that many tickets, but it happens. I was going to save that story, Crystal, till later, but we might as well talk about it now. As Crystal said, yes, the Judge Dredd cosplay was in 2024. I lost my nail. So the story behind that was, as you may know, I have a Judge Dredd cosplay. This is a cosplay that I absolutely love. I've talked about it here on the podcast. A great Judge Dredd cosplayer in one of the Judge Dredd Facebook groups helped me with this because the files that I had found to build the armor pieces were horrible. And when I mentioned it in the Facebook group, this guy reached out and gave me his files and the way that he built his, and I would not have been able to finish it without him. So the way that he built his Judge Dredd cosplay is the main suit is just full coveralls. And you have the big eagle on one shoulder and you have the big tall one on the other shoulder. Well, to attach them, what I got and what he told me to do was get what's known as marine screws. And what those are is basically, one is a snap that you snap onto your clothing. And on the 3D printed piece, you get the other side of the snap, which comes with a screw. You screw that in there and then you can snap it to your body. Now, the problem with that, and I didn't realize this until I finished the cosplay, is that once you're in the cosplay, it's very hard to put all these snaps on because it's pulling on your clothing and it's very, very tight. So I knew I was able to get some of the pieces together, but trying to get the entire thing in one shot was almost impossible. So thankfully, I have some amazing friends in the cosplay world, including Miss Pretty Nerdy Crystal, and I was trying on the Saturday morning to get into this cosplay, and I was just having such a horrible time getting into it that I messaged her, and I'm like, hey, I'm in my hotel room. Do you mind coming up and giving me a hand with these shoulders because they're just being a pain in the ass? And she said, yep, no problem. So I get as much of the cosplay on as I can, and she comes up, I'm doing up the last little bit, and she's helping with the shoulders. And as she's putting the shoulders on, her phone is just vibrating like crazy. Like it is just ping, 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 ping. And I'm like, I'm ignoring it because it's not my phone. I don't care. But after a while, I kind of looked and like, why is your phone going off like crazy? And she's like, oh, that's just my friend. She's just making sure I'm safe. And I'm like, safe for what? And then it kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, I'm a guy, and I just asked a girl to come up to my hotel room to help me with a cosplay. This is my version of the Tom story. I'm an idiot and didn't realize the situation that I kind of put myself in. And she was like, she's like, I've already told her everything's fine. Don't worry. You're perfectly fine. You're safe. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so embarrassed. I never put two and two together until until this exact moment. And the reason she brings up the nail is that as she was she, by the way, is going to be a part of the cosplay competition as much as I am that night. She is putting one of the snaps on and breaks a nail. Now, as a guy and as a husband, I know how bad that is. As a guy and a husband, and knowing that she's a cosplayer and is going to be part of the cosplay competition later, I felt horrible that day. Because maybe that was the thing that cost her the competition, was they're like, well, you got a broken nail. Sorry. But yeah, that was a moment where I did not see the situation for what it was. It was like, oh, yeah, I guess I am a guy that the friend doesn't really know, just asked you to come up to my hotel room. And yeah, I'm an idiot. See, I don't even think about stuff like that. That's how happy I am in my marriage. And my wife's perfectly fine with it. She's like, yeah, you're the safe guy. Like, I don't think anybody's worried about you. And I'm like, yeah, but people who don't know me, I kind of act that way. And they're like, oh yeah, well, sorry. I was wearing gloves, silly. Oh yeah, you were wearing gloves. Right. I forgot. You were in your Joker cosplay and you were wearing gloves that day. Best story ever. Yeah. I seem like an idiot. But yeah, that was those are two really fun stories. You know, there's definitely some small moments, and I kind of talked about it a little bit on the podcast last week of how much I love going to Fan Expo, because part of it is the memories of that first con. You know, after we finished the first, was it the Friday? Yeah, it must have been the Friday. We finished the Friday and we were wired. Like, we were so happy to be at Fan Expo and realizing how much fun this thing is that we decided to go walk around downtown Toronto in the middle of the night. Like, we were out at midnight walking around Nathan Phillips Square and just loving it. Like, if you've ever been to downtown Toronto in the middle of the night, it is pretty much as bustling as it is during the day. We were walking around seeing all the lights lit up and everything, and it was such it was the first time, I talked about this on the podcast last week, it was the first time we kind of did stuff on our own. Like, I never really traveled alone. I'd never been at a hotel by myself or with friends, so it was kind of a very freeing moment. And I kind of went back last year for the 15th anniversary of it. Was it the 15th? Yeah, it was it was the 14th. It was the last year I was in the hotel by myself. I was just remembering those moments, and after the masquerade and everything on the Saturday, I was so wired and so happy for how well it went, and also just the memories of the past 15 years of going to Comic-Con. I went back to Nathan Phillips Square during the middle of the night. I just went for a walk, and it was so cool. I threw on some headphones and I went for a walk, and it was so nice to be back down there and having those memories of going there 15 years ago with my friends, who I know they would love to go to conventions still, but they both have two boys, and they're both, they're all happily married and have a whole ton of more responsibilities than I do. And I just kind of sat back, and I think I messaged both of them that night. It was just like, man, I'm back where we were 15 years ago, and our lives have changed so much, but it was such a memorable night for me. So it's not and I was worried about you the whole time when you said you were out walk. Yes, I had messaged Crystal saying I was out for a walk. And actually I met, as I talked about earlier, Aaron, was at a hotel down the street, and I had walked past him, and he was out for a smoke at like 12:30 in the morning, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? You just did a masquerade and everything." And I'm like, "I'm kind of wired." And then Sunday I was dead. I slept so bad because I had walked around so much. But yeah, that was a nice little memory for me. Going into the cosplay competitions, though, I do want to bring up two really fun stories. The first time I did a cosplay competition at Fan Expo or in general was it was 2 years in, and I had the costume that I've shown on my Facebook, and I have no problem showing that it was my first cosplay, was Terrence and Phillip. And I've talked about it here on the podcast a couple times. This was the first time that I decided, let's just take this and bring it out on stage and see what, people's reaction is, because it seemed like a lot of people just liked us walking around in it. So maybe I'll be able to do a stage thing. And back then you could do a performance, and it's something I wish Fan Expo would do now, but we're not going to get into that. So my buddy Gavin was Philip. I was Terrence. Costumes are very, very basic. It is a blue t-shirt, a red t-shirt. The T and P on them are not even painted on. It is just electrical tape. It is a very cheap cosplay. The masks are just an oval of cardboard with some fabric glue, wrapped around and glued on the back. Cut out some eye holes, just a line. The mouth didn't move. And to attach around the back is literally shoelaces. Like, not stretchy fabric. It is literally a pair of shoelaces. And I was happy with it because it was kind of my first build cosplay. And like I said, we were walking around and got a lot of reaction. So we decided to do the cosplay competition. And we go in there, and if you've never been to a cosplay competition, you go in, you're kind of sitting around, and there's these things called judging, which you'll get judging when you go on stage, but then there's also judging in the back for craftsmanship. And at that point in Expo, you could just show up, and it's not as regulated as it is now, where you have to send them all the information early and yada, yada, yada. You just show up and you could be part of the cosplay competition. So I'm sitting there in the back with Gavin in the middle of the room with all the other cosplayers, and we're just sitting there, and Gavin has gone off to talk to the judges and the people hosting the cosplay competition. And he comes back and he goes, "Okay, we're signed up and everything." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he goes, "By the way, I've signed us up for craftsmanship." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, these are handmade cosplays." And I'm like, "It's cardboard and shoelaces." And he's like, "Well, I'm happy with it. I'm proud of what you did." And I'm like, "I thank you. I greatly appreciate that. But I want to remind you, it's cardboard and shoelaces. Like, this isn't the most like, again, if you're a rookie cosplayer, please do not take this as don't do this." But I kind of sat there and was like, I personally kind of feel embarrassed for myself to go up there in front of the judges and be like, "How did you make this?" And be like, "Well, I wrapped some fabric around some cardboard and I put some shoelaces on it. And the T and P are electrical tape. Thank you." Like, it's not the most in-depth cosplay. He's like, "Well, should I take us out of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably, to save us some time and save the judges some time. Like, I don't think we're winning any awards for craftsmanship on this one." He's like, "Well, I think you did a damn good job." And I'm like, "And I appreciate that, Gavin, but please don't embarrass me by having to explain how I made these cosplays. I think they have better things to do than care about what we did." And then the second cosplay competition, the first one I ever did on my own, was my Luigi cosplay. The first time I ever did my first version of Luigi, which I was super proud of, and I still am super proud of it. You will probably never see me in that cosplay again because it is a giant pain in the ass with that vacuum, and I have way better cosplays at this point. But this was one that I really wanted to show off my performance. And if you've ever seen any of my cosplay performances, that is something I try and do to the best of my ability. That is something I will spend weeks, months preparing and figuring out, because while my skills in building have gotten better, I do feel like my performance is something that I don't want to say outshine the competition, but I feel like that is something I do better than a lot of cosplayers. So I was like, okay, I want to do Luigi, and my version of Luigi, the first version, was very apocalyptic. You can't see it over there, but the giant Luigi cannon is actually right there. I just did a quick thing with it, a quick video. So giant bullet bill cannon, giant thwomp shield. I'm distressed. I'm disheveled. The whole point of this cosplay was Luigi is the last surviving member of the Mushroom Kingdom. Bowser has wiped everyone out, and I'm trying to rebuild civilization. Sort of almost a wasteland Fallout type Luigi. And if you've ever seen the cosplayer that does the Fallout version with the giant cannon and stuff, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I totally took inspiration off him and almost copied his cosplay part for part because I loved it so much. But I need to do the performance, and the performance I wanted to do sort of like I said. I wanted it to be sad. I wanted it to be melancholy. I wanted it to be just like the war. We lost the war against Bowser. I need to be the strong character of Luigi who is usually scared. So I made this giant 1-minute audio clip of sort of this somber wasteland music, and I did a voiceover of me sort of talking into a radio sort of feel of what's happened and where I'm going to go. And I think it's available on YouTube. The audio that I chose, I think, is copywritten, and it gets flagged a lot, but I think I was able to figure it out. But the voice is me doing my Luigi voice, which is a really insulting Italian accent. It is very papa da poopy. And it's me basically saying, the Mushroom Kingdom has fallen, and I am the last surviving member, but I am going to keep fighting. And I'm thinking backstage, like, I'm going to do this, and everyone's going to be like, so like, oh, it was so emotional. I could feel the tension and the sadness in his voice. As soon as my voice kicks in, everyone laughs. Even the host laughed. And I'm like, that is a moment as a performer where if you think the crowd is going to do one thing and something else completely happens, you have to figure that out real quick or it's going to crack you. And I just was like, okay, I can either acknowledge the laugh or just keep going. And maybe it will work. And I just kept going because the audio's still going, and I'm just still doing the performance of like standing at the edge, like the edge of the stage, looking out into the wilderness and the Fallout oblivion that's the Mushroom Kingdom, and everyone is belly laughing in the audience. And I'm like, okay, we're not doing somber anymore because I don't think as much as I wish I could sort of, get the emotional side of the audience, I don't think anyone's there to feel sad. Everyone's there to have fun and be excited. So that was a moment where I was like, okay, can't do this anymore. And I tried it a little bit with Darius, but it worked a little better with Darius based off the context of the character. But doing the Luigi voice and trying to be somber and sad, it just doesn't work. But it was a learning experience, and I'm glad I did it. Like I said, if you want to see it, go onto my YouTube at Myers Corp Cosplay, and you could probably find it. Other fun things, like back in the day, you could run into so many celebrities just walking around the convention. They don't do it as much anymore. Some do. Jason Mewes is always walking around. I always joke that we should have a balloon on his neck or on his wrist because that's the only way we'll ever find him sometimes. In the early years, like Tom Savini, the amazing special effects artist on Dawn of the Dead and such, there were many times, a couple years in a row, where I would just see him walking around. Like, no one's hounding him. No one's like, oh my God, it's Tom Savini. Like, he's just walking around, and I just know his face from, being a horror fan. I'm like, oh my God, Tom Savini. Can I take a picture? Click. And then other times, like WWE's Lita was just walking around. She wasn't even a guest. She was just in town. And I knew it was her because she's got a giant tattoo on her shoulder, and I've been a lifelong wrestling fan. And literally, I was just walking down the one aisle, and I saw her shoulder tattoo, and I'm like, did someone get the same tattoo as Lita? And she turned and it was her. And I'm like, holy shit, what the hell are you doing here? And I walked up and said hi. And I was like, hey, I'm a fan. Like, can I take a quick photo? She's like, yeah, sure. Back in the day, there wasn't such a thing as selfies. Like, no one knew to take selfies. And I wish I did. I just have a photo of her. But yeah, like that was so cool back in the day that the celebrities could just kind of walk around and they wouldn't get mobbed by people. And I think now there's so much security to make sure nothing happens to them that you don't get those opportunities. And I kind of feel bad for them because I feel like they kind of get pushed into a room and then they get thrown out and do some signatures and then pushed back in the room so they're safe. But there's those were some of the very fun times. So just walking around and randomly walking into people. All right, we're at the 7:50 mark. I think it's time for the most embarrassing story. And this story does not have anything to do with Fan Expo exactly, but it is Fan Expo adjacent because it happened at Fan Expo weekend while we were in Toronto. As I said, my buddy Tom and my buddy Gavin would come to Fan Expo with me in the first couple years, and then the girlfriends started to come, who are now all of our wives. And one year, Tom came to me about a month, 2 months beforehand and said, I'm going to propose to my wife, or girlfriend at the time, now wife, at Fan Expo. And I'm like, holy crap, that's really cool. How are we doing this? And he said, I don't know. We haven't figured out the details, but it's going to happen. I'm like, okay, like happy for you. Love it. So we each have rooms. So me and my wife have a room. Him and his wife have a room. Gavin and his wife, Lindsay, have a room. And throughout the weekend, Gavin and I are kind of figuring out like what's going on. Where are we doing? Haha, I love this story. Yes, I know, Crystal, you do. And we're kind of figuring out what's going on because Tom has not told us any detail so we can prepare. And finally at Saturday night, Saturday comes around and he goes, we're going to go to dinner after. We're going to go to Red something, the steakhouse. We're going to go there. A steakhouse for Rouge, the Rouge restaurant. Anyways, we're going to go there for dinner and that's where I'm going to do it. Love it. I think she's going to enjoy it. So we do the convention. I knew this was happening and I have a great photo. Again, I should have thrown it up here. And it is literally them. I'm behind them a good step back and they're walking away. And it is the last photo of them as boyfriend and girlfriend, not before they became engaged and became fiancés. We get to the hotel room and Tom has given the ring to our buddy Gavin to hold on to. And they're all getting ready. We're all getting ready to go to the restaurant. We go out into the hallway and it's me, my wife, Lynn's, Gavin's girlfriend, now wife, and Krista. And Krista, I love her to death. And she looks over at all of us and she goes, I had a really weird dream last night. And I said, oh yeah, what's the dream? She goes, I had this really weird dream that Tom was going to propose tonight at dinner. And my wife and Lynn's turn white. Like white as a ghost, jaw hit the floor because they know what's going to happen. And I want to shout out Miss Nutter and Miss Russell. Those are my two drama teachers from high school and two of my teachers who helped me with the not drama class, not just drama class, but improv class as well. They taught me some amazing improv skills. And at that moment when Krista says that, I look at Krista and I said, Krista, that is such a dumb thought. Why would he do something like that at a restaurant? Tom's smarter than that. He would have a better place to propose than just at a restaurant. And Krista goes, yeah, you're right, Mike. Yeah, you know what? You make a point. And she walks away. Tom at this point has heard me, and he's looking at me like, thanks, you just buried me. And I looked at him, I'm like, no, I didn't bury you. I saved you. Because the other thing that could have came out of my mouth was, yeah, it's kind of what's going to happen. Just go along with it, because there's no other options besides admitting it or just being like, yeah, no, that's a dumb idea. Stop thinking about that. Stop thinking about that. Please, dear God, stop thinking about that. So we get to the restaurant, and this is where the embarrassing part comes in. We are at a steakhouse. Now, I will be very honest. I will be very upfront. I will be very transparent. I have horrible stomach issues. They are better today than they were before, but I do have bad stomach issues. There are certain foods that do not sit well with me. It is probably due to from age like 5 to 20 something, I drank soda like water. Probably plays a part in it because once I stopped doing that, my stomach issues got better. But at the time, I was still drinking soda like water. And we went to the steakhouse and I got myself a nice big steak. And about 5 minutes in, I feel sick as a dog. Sick as a dog. And I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the most important moments in my friend's life. I need to be ready for this. I'll be right back. I run to the washroom and get so sick. So sick. And to the point where I am like dripping sweat sick. Like I am sick. This is not just I'm going to get sick and feel bad. No, I am sick. And my wife is texting me going, like we're getting close to the end of dinner. Like you should maybe be out here. And I'm like, I can't. Like I really can't leave. And panic starts to kick in now because I'm like, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss this. Finally, I compose myself enough to leave the washroom. I come back and sit down. The dinner has finished. The dessert has finished. It is the end of the meal. I am sitting there slunched in my chair, just pouring sweat. I'm so sick. And I'm looking at Tom, and I don't want to say, I'm sick, hurry the fuck up. But I'm staring at him and nodding like, please do it. Please propose. Please, dear God, propose. And he's looking at me nodding in sort of like a, you doing good? And I just, please do this. Please hurry up. Please hurry up. Because I'm still thinking I'm going to go back to the washroom and get sick again. And I kind of look at Gavin like, give him the fucking ring. Gives Tom the ring, drops down. Thankfully, I had my really crappy phone and I had enough sense to pull the phone out and videotape it in really bad quality because the room is completely dark. He proposes and I'm like, yay. I get up and run back to the washroom and am sick all over again. It was so embarrassing and I feel so bad for them, but realized I can't eat steak. Rest of the night came close to getting a cab home, but I'm also super cheap. So ended up walking back to the hotel thinking that the cold, fresh air was actually going to help. It didn't. I was sick the rest of the night. Felt better by morning, but was completely out of it for the rest of the night. So, yeah, that is probably the most embarrassing story of just being absolutely sick for one of the most important moments in my buddy's life that almost missed. And thankfully now, actually I haven't had steak in forever because of my stomach. And my stomach issues are a lot better now that I stopped drinking pop all the time. Coinky dink that happened. Might have to have a steak once in a while. Or try one soon just to see if it affects. Maybe I'll bring it home. I'll get one from a steakhouse and get it home. But yeah, that's a couple stories from the 15 years of going to Fan Expo. As I said before, it is definitely a weekend that I look forward to every single year. Every single Christmas, I pay as cheap of a price as I can. I get the first round of tickets. I get the ultimate pass. Because I know it's just a weekend I look forward to seeing everybody. It's an expensive weekend. I completely understand why people have kind of backed out of doing Expo because it's just so pricey now. But I still love it, and it is my vacation every single year. Like, we go on trips, and that's great, but to me, this is my vacation because I get to go see a lot of my friends that I only get to see there and have a lot of fun cosplaying and meet new people. So hopefully I will get to see you guys this weekend. As I said earlier, I will be in street clothes, probably hanging out with Crystal most of the day. We're going to be doing a lot of shopping on Thursday. Friday, I will be walking around in Ghost Rider. The vision is not that great with Ghost Rider, so if you see me, please get my attention in some way, because I can't see much in that thing. Darius will be on the Saturday. I will be walking around in that and doing the Masquerade cosplay competition at night. And then Sunday, I will be debuting Peacemaker the same day that John Cena will be there. No, I will not be meeting John Cena, unfortunately, because it is just so expensive to meet John, and as much of a fan as I am, a 5-second conversation with him is just not worth $200 or how much it was for an autograph or a photo op. So, but yeah, Fan Expo is a couple days away. I'm almost ready to go. I'm excited to see everybody. It is always a fun weekend, even when some years it just doesn't work out, and that happens. But overall, it is great to see everybody, and I hopefully will see you very, very soon. If you want to keep up with me, I'm going to try and post a bunch during Fan Expo on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Corp Cosplay. And if you want to follow me and talk about wrestling, Corp Wrestling on TikTok is where you will find me there. And yeah, Fan Expo 2026 is only a few days away. I'm very excited. Yeah, hopefully I get to see you guys. I'm going to let you guys get out of here. Before you do, though, can you hit that like, that share, and subscribe? Next week, we'll be back on Monday, the 31st, to talk all about what happened at Fan Expo. We'll talk about the cosplay competition and a whole lot more. And then it is a holiday the week after. It is Labor Day, so there will be no show that day. So, Fan Expo, and then we're taking a break. So, have yourselves a good night. Get plenty of rest. Stay off your feet, because if you're going to Expo, you're going to be on your feet all weekend. And I hope to see you this weekend. And if not, I will see you next week here on the podcast, Monday Night Nerd, live every single Monday night. Take care. I love you all, and I will see you very, very soon. Thanks so much for watching Monday Night Nerd. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any new episodes.